right now. Right now, 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 right now. Oh, I got a real good feeling.
We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We've got to add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. They always have been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been bigger. Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live. This is your week daily morning show where we bring you the latest and everything Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, especially the technical analysis over on Bitcoin, because today we're going to be talking about why a bull market, I believe, is around the corner on Bitcoin. We're going to look at the next 12 months and what those 12 months are going to look like so that we can have a better understanding of where Bitcoin is right now and where Bitcoin is going to be going over the course of the rest of the time leading up into Bitcoin halving. If you guys don't know, the Bitcoin halving is scheduled to take place sometime early next year, late quarter one, early quarter two. And during that next year, during the next 9 to 12 months, we're likely to see quite a lot of bullishness coming out of the Bitcoin market. And I'm very excited to share with you today what that movement is going to look like with most certainty. So let's go ahead and read some names and then we'll jump straight on over to CoinMarketCap. Crypto Mini Bike in chat said, morning everyone. Philly Skills 1428 said, what up? Wisely T said, morning all. Big job interview today. Prayers. We'll be praying for you, Wisely T. Lord, help him in that job interview. David Borchardt said, g'day. Good day to you as well. Wesley Van Steen said, let's go, Jeb. Thomas Post in chat. Good to see you, saying bull market inbound. Josh Beamer, Edsel, Joe Bollier, Norman Med, Alex Nybo. Really appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. Let's go ahead and take a look over here at CoinMarketCap. As you guys can see, Bitcoin is currently trading up 0.79% over the last 24 hours. Ethereum is currently up 1.24% over the last 24 hours. Bitcoin is up 1.15% over the last 7 days, and Ethereum is down 0.73% over the last 7 days. The thing that I'm pretty excited about today is that Bitcoin has been moving to the upside quite well over the last 24 hours. If we look at yesterday, right around this time the stream was live, we were sitting right around $30,400. Right now we're sitting at $30,750, which is indicated we've moved to the upside about, as I said, 1% over the last 24 hours. Bitcoin has thus began this ascending triangle pattern, as you can see right here. In fact, there's not even really a flagpole to it. Bitcoin has just kind of started moving up into this pattern and set a couple of high wicks up towards 31K. That's pretty exciting because if you don't remember, because I did remove the trend line here, $31,034 is a crucial level of resistance that was set back on April 14th earlier this year. $31,034 being that local high, about, it depends on what chart you're looking at. Right here is $31,049. But that level, about $31,050, wherever exactly it is. It changes, of course, a couple dollars depending on the chart because we analyze about 5 different Bitcoin charts here. That is the level that Bitcoin has been testing over and over and over again. This red level is our previous local high. This yellow level up here at 31.5 is our current local high. Bitcoin has surpassed 31.50, or at least tested 31.50 once, twice, a third, 4, 5, 6, 7, and now 8 times in just the last 4 hours. This isn't quite a touch on 31.49, but it is very, very close. So the question that we've been analyzing over the course of this week has been very simple. Are we going to see Bitcoin go through a major breakout above $31,500 in the next couple of weeks? Or are we going to have to wait a couple of months to see that? Well, we analyzed that in yesterday's live stream, so I'd encourage you to go back and watch yesterday's episode of Coffee and Crypto if you have not already. But I do want to give you a little bit of a brief rundown of what we talked about. Of course, the full details of what we discussed will be in yesterday's stream. Yesterday, we talked about how Bitcoin could break bullish out of a couple of patterns that it has going on right now, such as this trading channel that we see right here. This trading channel has a bull flag that we can see right there. In fact, we'll go into a cleaner chart. This trading channel that is showing right here has a flagpole for this bull flag right there, and that gives us a price target of $37,000 and change. We also have a target that we're in the process of actually reaching based on a flagpole right here, the falling wedge that we can see here that almost acts as a bull flag, and then the price target extrapolation for this would be nearly 40. So what we're looking at now is how do we get to those price targets, and are those actually reasonable? Well, I think it is reasonable for Bitcoin to break above 31.5. Again, there are a lot of reasons for that. We talked about several of those having to do with Lux Algo in yesterday's live stream. I would heavily encourage you to go back and watch that if you have not already. But what we talked about in that stream had to do with Lux Algo's price targets, and I'll just show you briefly what the one that we're looking at right now is. The bottom of the price target on the 3 daily chart buy signal that we just had confirmed on the 21st of June, 2023 sits at, drumroll please, 36.6, excuse me, 36.5. It's kind of hard to see. You kind of got to squint and cock your head a little bit. 36.518, at least here on BLX. The reason that level is so important is because on the 3 daily chart, as we analyzed yesterday, Bitcoin very regularly has a buy signal on the 3 daily chart and will rally all the way up to the bottom of the take profit zone, have a correction, and then rally up to the top part of the take profit zone later. So Bitcoin will very regularly do a movement like this. I hope you can see that. We'll hit the bottom of the take profit, correct, and then break to the upside and hit the next part of that take profit. We did that all throughout this year, and there's no reason to believe that that wouldn't continue considering the bullish events going on in the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market right now, and also considering the potential ETF that we may be seeing coming in from BlackRock. Excuse me if you can hear a little bit of drilling behind the scenes. I do believe that someone is running a reciprocating saw right on the other side of this wall. So apologies for that if you can hear that. You probably can't. These studio mics are pretty good at drowning out noise other than what they're intended to pick up. But if you can, I do apologize for that. All right, now, the reason that that is important is because if we're trying to figure out where Bitcoin's going to go over the next 12 months, and we kind of got to figure out what our next major movement is. When we're looking at major primary movements, we're generally speaking looking at the 3 daily chart or the weekly chart. Down on the daily chart, we're going to get some more noise. Down on the daily chart, we're going to get more of this kind of stuff, where we have a little bit of a rally, a little bit of a correction, a little bit of a rally, a little bit of a correction, a little bit of a correction, a little bit of a rally. On the 3 daily to the weekly chart, you're going to get more of the general idea. The general idea is that Bitcoin moved up, had a correction, moved up, had a correction, moving up. You could even call this a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Elliott wave formation, and that's the first place I want to take this. The first theory is that Bitcoin is going through a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movement with a topping out around $37,000 to $40,000. That theory would favor more so the idea of a more local and near breakout above 31K over the course of the next couple of weeks. And of course, as we've analyzed down on the shorter term timeframes, there's plenty of reason to believe that that could happen. For example, we do have a Lux Algo buy signal with a price target all the way up at 33.5. We've already hit the bottom, have a correction, hit the top, similar idea. We do have MACD that's bearish and RSI that's below its 14 interval moving average, but both of those are converging back bullish right now. If we continue to the upside, sit up here around 31K for a few days, we very well may see a bullish MACD cross, and we very well may see RSI break above that 14 daily moving average. And so that's where I think that Bitcoin has that there's an argument to be made that Bitcoin could break to the upside relatively soon. Now, let's also talk about a couple of more reasons why Bitcoin may break to the upside a little relatively soon. Then we'll talk about the reasons why Bitcoin might have to wait a little bit longer, and then we'll discuss what the next year is going to look like with that information in our back pocket. Part of the reason why I think Bitcoin may break to the upside sooner than later is because the Dixie is jumping off a cliff. If you're not familiar with the Dixie, that's the dollar currency index, and it is highly inversely correlated to Bitcoin. Whatever Dixie does, Bitcoin does the opposite. It says, na boo-boo, if I can do it, then if you can do it, then I can do it better. And that's kind of what Bitcoin says. If Bitcoin says you can crash, then I'll rally. It's a little bit the opposite of the old nursery rhyme. But point is, when Dixie goes through a correction, Bitcoin says, ha, told you so, and jumps on its head like it's a Goomba and then bounces up to the next floor of the castle. And that's where Bitcoin may be going through a rally in the next couple of days because the Dixie is falling straight through the floor. Looking back at Bitcoin in that same time frame that the Dixie has been just absolutely just kissing the floor, we have seen Bitcoin doing quite well. In the last 3 hours, you can see the Dixie has really started this movement, moved down 1 point in 3 hours. That's very high volatility for the dollar currency index. We're talking about ever since 8 a.m. It's not even 3 hours. In that time, Bitcoin's had quite a lot of volatility because people are shocked. What in the world's going on? Why is the Dixie dropping so hard? Is that a bearish thing? Is the dollar in trouble? Oh my goodness, de-dollarization, all of the like. But eventually when people realize, oh, no, wait a minute, Bitcoin, the dollar's still the number one currency. We're not seeing a complete world reserve flippening in the span of 3 hours. Then they're going to say, all right, Dixie's dropping and stock market just opened very high, then Bitcoin's going to do well. There's good reason to anticipate a very bullish day for Bitcoin today, considering Dixie's so low and stock market is so high. As you guys know, on the stock market, we talked about how we were having a small correction. I showed you this pattern yesterday. By the way, we're not even a stock analysis channel. But we called this. I told you guys that we were in this ascending triangle pattern here, very bullish, and there's a very high likelihood that we were going to break bullish out of it. I did say there's a possibility we backtest 430 first, but on open right now, the stock market is higher than it has been in over a year. We are setting yearly highs every single day right now. It has been 450 days since we've seen the stock market trading at 447, and we are on the fast track towards returning back to all-time high by rallying another 7%. Definitely seems like now is a solid time to get into U.S. stocks, and I'm looking to get into some myself. The reason that we're talking about stocks today, though, is not for the sake of stock investment. It's because we want to look at how it correlates with Bitcoin. Bitcoin has had quite a substantial amount of volatility recently because Bitcoin got a little scared of the Dixie dropping so fast, because that is a little bit of a shock to the system. But Bitcoin is also doing quite well because of what we see happening. Also in the stock market. So, guys, I do also want to let you know that we can talk a little bit about the CPI, because CPI is another impactor on this. If you guys don't know, CPI has been having a large impact today, and that does show up why we've been seeing so much of the Dixie dropping. If you can look over here at the Dixie with me, you'll see that the Dixie dropped right here around 8 a.m. And if we go down to the 5-minute chart, you're going to see that the Dixie started dropping at 8:30. And it's no surprise that the stock market is rallying following that news. Both of those movements are having a major impact on Bitcoin. And in case you were not aware, part of the reason for that is because of this. BLS.gov/CPI. Today is the day that CPI dropped. And as you can see, it is quite interesting news. Wow. CPI came back today for June 2023. That's June over June's data at 3%. That is a historic drop, a major drop, led by major drops in fuel oil, led by major drops in gasoline, led by major drops in energy, led by major drops in natural gas, and led by major drops in food. Food is down to 5.7%. It was significantly higher before just a few months ago. It's come down very, very quickly. Motor vehicle insurance is still up, but it's lower than it was. Airline fare is much lower than it was a year ago. All of these different pieces of information have led all items to come down to 3% and major categories to drop down to 4.8%. This is very, very, very substantially good news, and it does indicate that we're probably going to see more pauses on the effective federal funds rate, and it does also indicate that we're probably going to see more rallies on the stock market, and it does also explain why we are looking at this drop on the Dixie. So, taking all three of those factors into consideration, Bitcoin is expected to do quite well today with the drop on Dixie, with the rally on the SPY, and with this massive news coming from CPI. So with CPI data coming out, so bullish, that is going to likely help pave the way for a breakout on Bitcoin. So with all of that in mind, let's talk about what the next couple of weeks on Bitcoin are going to look like. Are we going to see a breakout today as a result of CPI? Are we going to see a breakout in the next week or two as a result of general market pressures, but also apprehension? Or are we going to see a breakout that takes a couple of months to play out? Well, I am inclined to tell you that Bitcoin would break very bullish as a result of the CPI data coming out very bullish. The tricky thing with that is that hasn't happened as of yet. As you can see on the 5-minute chart, CPI data dropped at 8:30 and Bitcoin initially rallied, but then it went through a correction, and we haven't actually regained those highs. Down here on the 5-minute chart, we're actually technically under a downtrend. What's going on? Well, first and foremost on the 5-minute chart, this is a very obvious inverse head and shoulders pattern. You can see that right here. Make no mistake, that is very, very significant. That inverse head and shoulders pattern gives us a price target of 31.2. If we break above that shoulder line down on the 5-minute chart, then, that neckline down on the 5-minute chart you're probably going to see some fireworks, even though the 4th of July was a week ago. So be on the lookout for that inverse head and shoulders pattern down on the 5-minute chart. That being said, also, though, I think that there is a little bit of a different precedent going on right now in Bitcoin compared to the rest of right now compared to the other CPI drops that we've seen, because CPI has dropped this substantially before, and it has led Bitcoin to an immediate and major rally. For example, if we go back here to March, we can see that the CPI data dropped, I believe it was March 12th, was it? No, I'm sorry. I believe it was March, excuse me, it wasn't. It was March 14th. And Bitcoin went through a huge rally. Huge rally. Right here. I believe it was Tuesday, March 14th that the CPI data dropped. We were trading at $24,000. This is the 30-minute chart. We immediately rallied 7% in an hour. So why did Bitcoin not rally so hardly at all on the CPI data release, when back here in March we saw basically, I think it was a 0.6% CPI drop, not even as big as what we just saw. This is like a 1.5% CPI drop that we've just witnessed. Why did Bitcoin not rally as much this time? Well, I think there is a component of people are going to be excited about the CPI data, but I think there's also a component that people are going to want to know, what does Bitcoin look like in an environment where there is low inflation and where the effective federal funds rate is not hiking and where the stock market is doing well and where the rest of the economy seems to be faring quite well? You see, most of the growth that was built in the last 3 years on Bitcoin was honestly on the backs, not on the backs. It was on the backs of the development of Bitcoin and on its why and on its use case. But much of it was driven, I should say, by fear of the traditional environment, of the traditional markets. Much of the growth in Bitcoin was driven because people were afraid of inflation. And so if inflation is coming under control, it does make sense that that would be bullish on Bitcoin from the sake of it's kind of always been bullish on Bitcoin. But what it doesn't make sense from is from the fact that Bitcoin was actually always designed to be an inflation hedge. So if if US inflation is at 3%, then that removes some of the investment purpose that many of the retail and the institutional investors are going to see in Bitcoin. So with inflation coming down, it's always been a little bit odd that a drop in inflation has led to an increase on Bitcoin. And my theory is this: I believe that when the inflation was sitting at 9.6% last June, when that was occurring, and by the way, I've talked about a few times how there's going to be more difficulties with inflation. It's not going to be quite so simple to come down. At some point, it's going to turn around and probably go back up for a little while. But when inflation's coming down from 9 to 8 to 7%, then people are thinking, okay, the U.S. economy is not going to completely explode. I can afford to put some money in a risk-on asset like Bitcoin. But when inflation has come down to 3%, especially if it's come down as quickly as it has in these last 2 months, from 4.9% now down to 3% in the span of 2 months. If that inflation comes down that quickly, then that leads people to think, oh, wow, the U.S. economy is strong. The U.S. dollar is strong. I don't have much of an interest in getting into the stock market, into Bitcoin right now, because why would I? Inflation coming down this aggressively is going to lead the stock market through a major rally and is going to lead us into wanting to get into the stocks. So there is a little bit of conflict of interest that the retail and the institutional investors both are feeling right now when they are analyzing Bitcoin investment versus stock investment. And so that's why I think Bitcoin has not rallied as aggressively right now as it otherwise would have. So is Bitcoin going to break bullish here on the CPI news and on a drop in dollar currency index and on a rally on stocks? Technically speaking, it should. Is it going to? So far, it doesn't really look like it. So far, it looks like Bitcoin's going to continue trading sideways here in this pattern. And to be honest with you, the more Bitcoin stays up here and the more that it shrugs off good news like CPI drops and Dixie drops and rallies on the stock market, the more it indicates to me that, okay, the bulls really are a little bit exhausted. They actually do need to take a little bit more of a breather before they move to the upside. And I am starting to get into that camp. Where I'm putting a greater likelihood every day on Bitcoin going through a correction down to 28,545. I am still currently on camp bull. I'm still currently on camp we're just going to break out from here because I have not been proven wrong yet. And I also have historical precedence to see that that has happened in the past. That being said, I also have historical precedent to say that exactly what I'm proposing this time might happen has happened again. The first major rally we saw this year, we saw what I'm saying could happen if we drop down to 28.5. Small correction followed by a rally to fresh highs. A small correction, then rally to fresh highs above 31K. That's what it would look like if we drop down to 28,545 first, and then a rally to 33.5. That being said, as I said, we do also have This example here in April, where Bitcoin went through a major rally, flagged out, and then just kept on going. I think it's important that we are prepared for both scenarios today as to whether or not we're going to see Bitcoin going through that major breakout or not. And so here's how we can be prepared for those scenarios. First and foremost, we can be prepared for just a huge breakout above 31.5. If we start breaking above 31.5 with a lot of exuberance, then have a very tentative and not an automatic trade in place around 31.750. Again, I cannot stress this enough. This should not be an automatic trade, and I'll tell you why. If you make this an automatic trade, there's a very high probability that that automatic trade could just catch a market on a wick like this. Do not make this an automatic trade. Set this up and set an alert, and then as soon as you see that alert, drop what you're doing and look at the chart. 31.750. That is the level I'm talking about here. And it's a general level. You might say, all right, I'm not going to enter till 31.9. Whatever. Figure out a level that's right around that territory that's a new local high. And then make sure before you go in on that trade, make sure there's good volume. There was not a huge amount of volume on this rally. There was not a huge amount of volume on this rally. There was on the red volume. There was somewhat more volume on this rally right here. But of course, we ended up seeing bearish RSI divergence and bearish MACD divergence that led Bitcoin into this period of sideways stagnation. So if you're looking for a breakout above 31.750, you're probably looking for volume like this. You're looking for a lot of green volume. You're looking for double, triple, quadruple the amount of volume that you were seeing just a few candlesticks before. We're not there right now, and it may take us time to get there. But if we break through 31.750 and we have a huge amount of volume, I'm talking an absolute massive amount of volume, into yourself a long trade and get on the train because the bulls are rampaging. Now, if we do end up seeing that break to the upside and you're wondering where you should exit, then you could consider looking at Luxalgo and using two different exits. The first exit could be the halfway point of the daily chart buy signal. That will probably end up being a level to contend with. It's about 32. It's about 32 and a third. The next level will be 32,935, and the level after that will be the top of the Luxalgo take profit at 33,800. All three of those levels, I will draw them right here. Let's just try and do that a little bit more evenly. Right here, and right here. We'll just go ahead and use a trend line. Why not? Right here, right there at 32,935, and right here. If you are able to set a buy trade, then I would encourage you to set a cascading exits at 32.5, 32,935, and 33.8. But what you're also going to want to do is drop these by about $100 to $150 because you always want to exit just a little bit below the level that you're looking at because you don't want to get caught where you're not able to actually make the exit. So these are some rough exits. You can see the numbers over here. We're talking about 33,675, for example, 32,781, and 32,267, some number right around there. Put your entry right here and then have a very, very tight stop loss. Remember, guys, when you first get into a trade, one of the principles of trading, use a very tight stop loss. This is a trade setup that we're planning for a massive breakout. If Bitcoin's going through a massive breakout, you should be able to get away with having a 15x risk to reward ratio because you've got a $3 stop loss or whatever your exact number is going to be. Have a ridiculously tight stop loss. Now, on the other hand, the other way to go about this is that if we do end up seeing a correction on Bitcoin before we break to the upside, and we do see Bitcoin having to come back down to this uptrend right here, then your objective is buy here, stop loss here, and then hold for this. Because if Bitcoin does fall back down to 28,545 and down to this uptrending level of support, there's a very high probability that it will hold. If it doesn't hold, then stop loss, $2 later, short trade down to 25,236. Then reset the trade, buy down here, and then hold. And then if we break below the support, stop loss, short trade down to our next level of support. That's how you do that. You see what I'm saying? Buy, and then the second that you're like, oh, that was a bad buy, then I'm just going to stop loss and then enter a short trade for the next leg down. Because Bitcoin's going to fall through floors, and it's going to hit one floor, and then another floor, and another floor, and eventually it'll run out of steam, and it'll actually bottom out. I think that if Bitcoin does fall down here, it's going to bottom out on this uptrend and 28,545 respectively. If you're not sure where 28,545 comes from, I will show you. If you're a regular on the stream, you've heard that number more times than you can count, but 28,545 is this bottom that we set over here on the 22nd of June 2021. It was the bottom of the intra bull market crash that we saw in June and summer of last year, the year before. And so if that occurs, buy here, have a ridiculously tight stop loss, and enjoy an even higher take profit. Because this is a trade that's going to be a little limited. If you buy here, then you have pretty much the exact same exits, except you're starting from a lot lower. So instead of starting right here at 31.75, where you're going to make 1, 2, 3%, you're going to start down here at 28.5, where you're going to make 13, 14, 15%. So you should be in the camp that I'm in of hoping that Bitcoin goes through this correction so that we can get a better entry price. But if we don't get that better entry price, then there is still hope that we're going to see a break to the upside and that we'll be able to capitalize on that. Now, kind of wrapping all that together, I think you see why I believe that we're going to either have a short-term breakout or a little bit of a corrective movement and then a rally. Which one happens? I don't really care. I don't really care which one happens. I prefer for this one to happen, but ultimately, we'll find out when the time comes. Ultimately, a lot of times when people try and make price predictions on or price targets or predictions on which breakout scenario is going to happen, a lot of times it just ends up with disappointment because if you're wrong, you're like, oh man, that sucks. You almost have to have like a 95% win rate to not feel discouraged sometimes if you haven't won the battle in your mind. Don't forget mind over matter. Whichever one happens, be prepared for both. I showed you trade setups for both. It doesn't really matter. One of them is likely to occur. From there, Bitcoin is probably going to rally up to at least $35,000, at least 33.5, and then it will probably correct back down and backtest 30 to 31.5. From there, Bitcoin's probably going to have some kind of movement moving through into the next halving, which I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to put the exact date on here because I don't know if it's where it exactly is. I think we're looking at about April, late April, early May, early April, somewhere in April. The halving is going to take place. By that time, if we can hold above 30K and we have the halving take place, then Bitcoin's heading for all-time high, probably 12 to 18 months from now, and we're going to see Bitcoin likely gobbling up a lot of investor enthusiasm. That also happens to line up quite well with what will be happening in the stock market at that time. The stock market will likely be heading towards fresh highs. We'll also likely be seeing inflation under control. Inflation may go back to the upside for a few months as a result of some things we talked about in a previous piece of content where the market is highly likely to run into issues on the fact that it's a 12-month moving average, and we're going to have some of that data continue to roll over. But as the stock market hits fresh highs, as the effective federal funds rate plateaus and starts coming down, all of those things are going to be bullish impactors on the Bitcoin market, and all of those factors will likely help Bitcoin to go through a rally, because if the rest of the economy is stable, then that gives people more confidence to go into more what they perceive to be risk-on assets such as Bitcoin. So that's what I believe the next 12 months is going to look like, and by mainly focusing on what I believe the next few weeks to months are going to look like, I hope you understand where I believe Bitcoin is going from here. I think one way or another, by the end of August, moving into early September, we're going to be breaking through 31.5, and we're going to be moving up into making the $30,000 our home. We're gonna say goodbye to the 20,000s, and we're going to start moving up into the 30,000s and making those our residence. That's how I believe the things are going to play out, and I'd love to hear your opinion on that as well. Really appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like button if you have not already. And also make sure that you guys keep an eye on that CPI, because it's definitely a very interesting number right now. I'm not sure how much I agree with it, but what I will tell you is that it is the number that everybody is going by. It is the number that the Fed's going by. It is the number that the Federal Reserve, well, I already said that, but the United States government is going by, that the Congress is going by, that policymakers are going by. Very important. Pew Pew Poom 2 made a good point. Just go out here and look at this. There has been a monthly chart cross, or it's about to happen actually. It hasn't technically happened yet, but there's soon to be a monthly chart cross on the MACD. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. It has happened. There has been a monthly chart cross on MACD, and that is very bullish, and that lines up with what I'm talking about how I believe the next 12 to 18 months are going to send us back to all-time high. Whenever we see a bullish MACD cross on the monthly chart, that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to see bullishness right then. In fact, the last time we saw a major example of a bullish MACD cross, Bitcoin actually corrected 66% in the course of 8 months. But it was a very early warning sign that a bull market was coming. And that's what I'm talking about. The next 8 months until halving is likely going to be a little bit precarious, especially as the SEC case shakes out against Coinbase and Binance. But I do believe that's going to end up being bullish. Every time we've seen a bullish MACD cross in times past, we've seen a major rally in times following. All right, let's read some chat. Mike Lowry in chat said, sorry, I'm not very interested in crypto today, having to make some tough decisions about our 15-year-old dog. Man, I'm so sorry to hear that, Mike. So sorry to hear that, Mike. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, that's hard. That is hard. Let's see. Let's see. Dap Gamble Drop said, I think this is the start of a massive bull market, but it won't really hit for a year or two. I'm in that same boat. I think that's where we are right now as well. All right. Guys, make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already. Really appreciate all of you tuning in. We are going to go ahead and wrap it out. But I'm really excited to see where the channel is going to go, and I'm really excited to see how you guys are growing and progressing. And I really just, I'm very, very excited to just be on stream and share with you guys some content and some technical analysis, and I can't wait to continue bringing you guys that content for years and years to come. Sorry to hear that, Mike. Guys, be praying for him and his family. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in. I am going to wrap it out, but before I go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.